So you've played around with Desmos some now, and hopefully you're ready to graph some of them. So I think you've maybe seen that what's under the x is kind of like the x radius, what's kind of under the y is kind of like our y radius. So plotting those isn't too bad. Moving the center is just the same as when we graphed circles. So then we would count our radiuses out from the center. The only thing that we maybe need to look at is finding the focus. So let's look at our first two examples. So here we have x squared over 9 plus y squared over 4. That's not shifted left and right at all, so the center of that is at 0, 0. And our x radius is a square root of 9, so our x radius is 3, and our y radius is 2. So from x, we're going to go, or for the x, we're going to go out 3, 1, 2, 3. And for y, or for to the left, we're going to go out 1, 2, 3. And then our y radius is 2, so we're going to go up and down 2 from our center. Okay, so look at it kind of like an x and y radius. And I think it's easier to draw it as well before we start to label vertices, co-vertices, foci, because it's easier to tell from the graph where those are rather than maybe just counting from our center. So here's our ellipse. And again, the more times you draw it, the better it starts to look. So where are the vertices? Well, the vertices are further out to the left and the right. Those went out to plus or minus 3, 0. Now what about our co-vertices? Those went straight up and down to 0, plus or minus 2. And now for the foci. The foci are somewhere along our major axis. And there's a formula on the sheet that's c squared equals the larger radius squared minus the smaller radius squared. So to find where the foci are, there's c units from the center, where c squared equals the larger radius squared, so that's the 9, minus the smaller. So c squared equals 5, so c equals a square root of 5, which is going to be 2 point something. Okay, so that means our foci would be out 2, or just a little bit more than 2. On this, it's easy to tell that they're at plus or minus square root of 5, 0. If you were to put in there plus or minus 2 point, whatever that is, that would be fine as well. Okay, so we take to find how far out the foci are, c squared equals larger radius squared minus smaller radius squared, and then the square root of that. Okay, always have to do the larger minus the smaller. It wouldn't work if we did 4 minus 9, because then we'd be taking the square root of a negative. In our next example, we're going to look at x squared over 9 plus y squared over 25 equals 1. So our x radius, in this case, is the square root of 9. So our x radius is 3. Our y radius is square root of 25, so our y radius is 5. And then it's just x squared and y squared on top, so we're not shifted anywhere. So our center is at 0, 0. Our x radius is 3, so I'm going to go left 3 and right 3, or right 3 and left 3. Okay? And then our y radius is 5, so from our center at 0, 0, we're going to go up 5 and down 5. And those give us all of our vertices and our co-vertices. And from that point, we have enough to draw our ellipse as best we can. Takes practice. Okay, so there's our ellipse. And now let's label the key parts that we have. So in this one, our vertices are up and down because it opens taller than it does wider. So our vertices are at 0 and positive negative 5. Our co-vertices this time are the ones that are left and right, since it's not since those are closer. So our co-vertices are at plus or minus 3, 0. And to find the foci, we do, again, c squared equals a squared minus b squared, where a is the larger radius, b is the smaller radius. So our larger radius squared is the 25. The smaller one is 9. So c squared equals 25 minus 9. That's 16. So in this case, c is 4. So that means our foci are 4 away from the center between the vertices. So the coordinates for our foci are at 0 plus or minus 4. So the last one we'll graph together here, we have x minus 6 squared over 25 plus y plus 1 squared equals 1. So this one is shifted. So our center, in this case, we shift right 6, down 1. So our center is at 6, negative 1. I'm going to plot that. So our center is at 6, negative 1. Our x radius is a square root of 25, so our x radius is 5. And then what about our y? We don't really have a fraction there, but this is really over 1. Right? We could put that that's over 1, and that doesn't change anything. So our y radius is just a square root of 1, which is 1. So our x radius is 5, our y radius is 1. So I'm going to plot our vertices and covertices. So we go left and right 5, up and down 1. So this is a pretty skinny ellipse here. And we're good to draw that. And again, I think it's easier to draw as much as we can before we label points, because it's easier to decide where the points are if we have a picture of them. So now we've got everything drawn. Our vertices are at 1, negative 1, and 11, negative 1. Another way that we could find that is take 6 and add and subtract 5, right? So 6 minus 5 puts us at 1. 6 plus 5, so plus that radius puts us at 11. Covertices are up and down from there, so they're at 6, 0, and 6, negative 2. So again, we're at 6, and then we go up and down 1. So negative 1 plus 1, negative 1 minus 1 gets us that 0 and negative 2. So the last part is the foci. So we do c squared equals a squared minus b squared, so the larger minus the smaller. So the larger radius squared is 25, minus the smaller of those is 1. So c squared equals 24. C equals a square root of 24, which is going to be just less than 5. I think that comes out to 4.9 something, and we'll leave it as a decimal because that's easy to count. So our foci are 4.9 away from the center. 1, 2, 3, 4.9. So just inside of our vertices are the foci. And to get the coordinates for those, we'll do the same thing where we just add or subtract 4.9 with that 6. So if we do 6, so we're at 6 here, minus 4.9 to go that way, that's going to put us at 1.1, negative 1. And if we add 4.9, so if we take 6 plus 4.9 to get us over here, that gets us 10.9. 10.9, negative 1 are the foci. So those are all the pieces that you should give when you're graphing an ellipse. Give me the center, the vertices, the covertices, and finally the foci.